With a solid, if unspectacular season under our belts, the White Sox are looking bright. But I think it's time to swing the team's focus onto the one goal which doesn't look very likely right now. We've got the best farm system, and it's starting to look like our youngsters can give us the push we need towards the playoffs, but our attendances are pretty dire if we want to get all our goals accomplished. We'll chat about that a little later though. For now, let's sort out the off-season. Classic bullet points have been dealt with as usual, arbitration offers sent out, well, actually just the one. Holton's staying, everyone else is left for the free agency branded Roomba that skids around the front office on away days. We give JJ Bleday, baby! A 3-year contract for his efforts last year. He deserves it, mostly for entertaining me. DevLab Deving goes to the usual suspects for the first round, and the youngsters for the multi-month regimes. Not many good results, but at least it's not nothing. We get a wave of fresh faces popping in to greet me in my office. The Major League personnel team has had a makeover, as well as a few of the minor league managers. And the scouting director comes in soon enough to check up on IAFA. Plenty of 5 stars, but nobody completely jumping out at me as a game changer. Same with free agency. Loads of good players this time round, but nobody screaming out for me to sign them in our price range. And we made a small trade just to get Mark Payton off the books. Wensiel is a quad-A player through and through. He might make some appearances as a platoon hitter against lefties, which is actually a massive target of mine this offseason. I want players who can mash one or the other, and maybe force them into some positions. I'm getting antsy not being able to control my players. The Rule 5 gave us an opportunity on 2 interesting players. Tom Cosgrove has an actual contract, but his rating suggests he may be worth it. And remember how about 8 seconds ago, how I said I wanted some platoons? Well, here's Yossi Galan. He's either gonna be amazing or crap. Only one way to find out, and that's to put him in the lineup against lefties. But tiny rant time. This doesn't actually put him in the lineup against lefties, it just makes sure that when he does, it's in the 6th spot. I don't like that. I want to be able to do manual platoons here. OOTP devs, make it happen. I believe in you. But let's just hover over our final objective for a moment. The team's attendance record is just above 2.95 million bodies through the door, and last year we had, not that. We'd be short even if we added the last 2 seasons together. I've plugged some numbers into the calculator, and it says that if we get max attendance over all the games of the season, we'll clear that record by nearly 3 million. Easy, right? 2 years to either get our fan interest up or tank our prices. And with this year's popularity mechanic, don't be surprised if you see those prices buried 3 feet under for 2028. For now though, we'll hold tight and get on with the off-season. See you on opening day.
Let's go, 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 White Sox!
Well, that off-season happened. It was kind of a wet puddle all in all. We got a few players here and there, and they're good, but I'm not really feeling particularly improved. I reckon if we end up in a similar situation to last year, we'd pull through stronger, but last year was an anomaly. I'm not sure we can go the distance, but we'll certainly try. On the books to help us do that offensively are 2 players having very contrasting seasons in real life at the moment. Alec Boehm's gonna be our starting first baseman for $6.5 million a year for 3 years. Hopefully he'll take his 2024 rhythm into 2027. And Austin Hayes will back up our outfield at 2.1 for the season. He's one of those platooners I was after, but he may end up as a quad-A player depending on how Zavala does down in AAA. In the pitching department, I hadn't planned on doing anything until the international free agents came along and ruined my day. Not really, but Watanabe here, looking like an exceptionally solid starter, decided that he'd be okay taking this ridiculously cheap contract, and I just couldn't resist. He might not peak this season, but hopefully he develops well and comes good when Savage and friends start smashing it. Not violently though. Despite his name, Savage enjoys riding ATVs, playing paintball, and hunting deers? Oh, come on, Trey, give me something to work with here. Anyway, the rest of the off-season was quiet too. We were outbid on all of our IAFA favourites, so we have an eclectic mix of prospects who may or may not pan out. Nobody who will be adding to the top 200 prospects, and some who still haven't signed yet, so there's no point in showing them. Spring training went by as expected, a 500 team. We really could go any way this season. The preseason predictions say we'll be a chunk over 500, and in a really rough battle for the last wildcard slot. I honestly feel like this is going to be more like Season 2. I predict a crash and burn, but I hope I'm wrong. I'll say 82 and 80. And I'd say put your predictions down below, but if I make a big movie out of this, it's going to sound real weird saying it so many times. So instead, you should like and subscribe so that I can justify the stupid number of hours that went into making these. Cheers! And now we retreat to showing the lineups, and the pitching, and then in a moment, to the transition. See you at the draft.
Let's go, 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 White Sox!
This season, has been wild. We started off on a major patch of one-run syndrome, losing 9 of 13 in the April showers, but 5 of those were just by the one run. We cleaned that up to finish the month on a slightly more respectable 10 and 15 before showing our true colors with 2 strong winning months. We boast the 2nd best defense in the AL and the 5th best offense, showing that April was the outlier, not May or June. Now we sit in 2nd with that resurgence, 1 game ahead of the Royals for the division, and looking like we have a solid shot at a wildcard spot. June has proved to be the month of injuries too, with key players like Encarnacion Strand and Zach Littell getting banged up, as well as Drew Thorpe going down for his third major injury of the rebuild. As mentioned before, our defense has been on point, and that's in large part because of our pitching. Both the rotation and bullpen have been great, but a special shout out to our new Japanese starter, Watanabe, who decided to give us much more than our money's worth. He may get some Rookie of the Year votes at this rate, although he won't get the same kinds of accolades this man will get for his year. Mr. Luis Robert Jr. came into his last year on the books with us on a mission, and that mission was to get paid. The man's hitting over 300 with 30 homers at the halfway mark, and if he keeps it up, he'll be in the MVP talks for sure. The Galan experiment has been a failure, but Cuero's been shocking too, so he gets more time to figure it out. And the infield have all been chipping away for an incredibly positive season, except for the golden boy Monty, who started the season really cold but recovered with a dynamite June. But I know what you're actually here for. The Fragoso Watch.
Fragoso Watch.
Fragoso is bad now.
Fragoso Watch.
Stupid TCR. Anyway, the draft. We pick 15th in a very deep pool. As ever, I'm hoping for the best college players to drop to me, but I might have to settle this time round if I want to boost up the farm system's rankings in the future. Going 15th overall for the Chicago White Sox in the 2026 first-year player draft is high school center fielder Jeremy Turner. He's a jack of all trades, both with his bat and with his glove, but if we strip away maybe 5 or 10 points from his potential, he'd still end up a bit part player, and the college players just weren't of that quality by this point. In the second round, we took college shortstop Nate Sayre. It was a toss-up between a better bat or a better defender, and I decided on the bat. The lab's more reliable for defensive work anyway. Sayre should be a solid major leaguer if he fulfills his potential. Lucky me, the defender survives to round 3. Alfredo Medina is Sayere's counterpart, and they'll build a great defensive core running through our minor leagues, so long as Alfredo's bat can keep up. Fourth up is another high schooler, Juan Sandoval. He's got the potential to be an everyday outfielder, it's just about whether he gets there or not, especially the power. And finally, for the 5th, I grabbed an interesting reliever prospect in Arturo Carrillo. I didn't even realize he was a high schooler when I looked at his ratings. He's supposedly already good enough for A-ball, so I just hope he's not the kind of reliever who peters out into nothing. He's also called the Dominator, and I couldn't resist that. Plenty of decent prospects to keep an eye on from the first 5 rounds, but none of them will see the light of day by next season, so we'll leave it at that. For now, I need to see if the Sox need any reinforcements by the deadline. We're making good pace, but if we kick on this month or crash into the depths, it may even be worth looking at who wants Luis Robert. I'll see you then.
Let's go, 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 White Sox!
July has been a mixed month, keeping us floating above 500 as the trade deadline looms. All of our peripherals have backpedaled, but we're still the 5th best hitters in the league. The pitching has taken a dive though. The division and the wildcard race are extremely tight, so we need to make a decision to invest or pull back. I went into the deadline expecting to do something about the stagnating Luis Robert Jr. He's not chomping at the bit for that MVP race after all. But when I went to look at who could measure up to him throughout the league, nobody stood out at a reasonable price, so we're keeping here for a playoff chase. To reinforce the troops, we grabbed Garrett Whitlock for a prospect package headlined by Julio Vargas, who you might remember from last year's IAFA. His ratings have plummeted, and while he's in the top 100 prospects right now, I have no doubt he won't be when the new rankings come out, and we need pitching help. Whitlock has been a solid starter for the past year and a half, and we need him to keep that going to push us into the playoffs proper. And don't think I've missed the fact that this is our second Garrett. This one doesn't knit anywhere near as much, but he's definitely good at holding down a good joke. I'll let that one sink in for a second. There you go. I had a gut feeling that even though we weren't dealing Luis, I could make a bumper trade happen, and I was right. The LA Angels have been inexcusably bad for the past 2 seasons, so they had no good use for their bright young catcher Logan O'Hoppe. He's the kind of player we can hope to use as an offensive plug hole once our star player jets up for the big bucks. We had to give up a big package though, and they were even happy to give us about half our budget in return. Bohm started off the season well, but he's below average now. Mauricio's BABIP had punched up to just under 500 .300, and I knew I had to take advantage of that this deadline. He's too streaky a player for me to trust him. We also had to give up our 5th rounder from last year, and one of the late IAFA signings from this season. All in all though, this deal is a massive win for us in my eyes. We get the best player in the deal easily, and whilst I like the players I'm giving up, they're not going to contribute enough for me to get attached. The Yankees were willing to give up Matt Strom for a quad-A outfielder. Hopefully he'll shore up the high leverage portion of the bullpen. Then I went to the Padres, who were willing to give me $34 million for another IAFA signing, Anya Villion. This felt like a bit of an AI exploit, but it's in the game, and it would let me do something a little fun later. But if you don't think I should be making this kind of move, let me know and I'll keep it to player exchanges. And that fun thing I mentioned is getting back our star Luis Robert Jr. for the next 7 years. He was asking for around $30 million a year, so I'm very fortunate he was swayed by a player opt-out. After all, I didn't want to abuse the financial system anywhere near as much as the trade system. I could easily go and get the best players on unrealistic wages for when the rebuild is over, but that doesn't sound very rebuildy to me. The Sox trying to keep hold of one of their own after putting up nearly 30 WAR in 8 years? Maybe not strategically savvy, but definitely a realistic thought process. We now definitely have a playoff contender. Let's hope all the moves pay off. This is how Buck wants the pitching staff going forward. And the hitters are going to look like this, with me getting Cuero out of being a DH, so I hope he can get slotted in. Let's head off to the end of the season.
Let's go, 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 White Sox!
And what an end to the season it was indeed. We kept pace with our mid-season form to go 89 and 73, and into the first White Sox playoff appearance since 2021. We probably would have had a wildcard spot too, even if we'd lost all of our October games, with all of the wildcard teams having the same record as us. The Twins still stormed away with the division though. We kept the consistency in our batting proficiency, and the defense stepped up a gear to finish up as 4th best. We'll face Tampa in the wildcard series, but before that, the game gifted us with a storyline. As the season was starting to wrap up, our star pitcher, Watanabe, knocked on my door to tell me that he really needed the team's help. To the veterans out there, you know exactly what this means. But for the uninitiated, every so often a player will come to request that the team set up a charity. Now, I don't know how much sway a GM would have over the owner for something like this in real life, but in the game they treat you as someone with the owner's bank details ready to go at any moment. Anyway, this event lets you gain fan interest and loyalty in exchange for market size. Think of it like taking a chunk out of your potential payroll to set up the charity, hire the staff, etc, etc. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally don't have a bank account the size of Mr. Jerry Reinsdorf Jr. There will never be a timeline where I don't click this option, unless there's some evil millionaire achievement I don't know about. When you're spending $200 million a year, you can afford to help out those in need. Let's all thank Norihisa for his goodwill, and hope that our budget doesn't take a massive hit going into our final season. But we've achieved our second goal of the rebuild, get the Sox back into the playoffs. And we started off in our home stadium, having won the head-to-head against the Rays during the season. We got off on the right foot in Game 1, with Robert Jr. lining in a single for an RBI, getting revenge for Junior Caminero's 9 foul ball walk in the top of the first inning. Our charitable Watanabe kept it clean through his 5 innings, ES getting a solo home run as insurance in the 4th, before Jason Adam botched it in the 7th, letting up a 2-run bomb and getting subbed out. Robles got Yossi Galan, more on him later, back home in the same inning to make up for it, and the bullpen cleaned up the rest. Zach Littell led a nail-biter in Game 2. Tampa got runs in the 4th, 6th and 9th, before the peerless home run machine Yossi Galan tied us up with a 3-run rocket on 2 outs. Last batter up. Unfortunately, the rest of the team saw his stat line and didn't think he'd do it again, so we slumped to a defeat in the 13th inning. So we went into a Game 3 with everything on the line, which means it didn't feel great when Paredes hit a double off of Javier to send in 2 runs in the first inning. The lads didn't give up though, and a wild pitch gave us hope in the 2nd. Then a home run by Robert Jr. in the 4th brought us level. We had the momentum, and we used it. Gray and Paulie doubled and sent ES storming past 3rd to home. We go through to the ALDS, beating the Tampa Bay Rays 2-1. 3 incredibly competitive outings which we managed to scrape through on 2 one-run games, our specialty. And who will we be meeting in the division series? The team I've been singing the praises of this whole save, the Baltimore Orioles. So let's pull up our bootstraps and give something for the city of Chicago to shout about. No worries, we'll just... Okay, yeah, no, it's okay guys, we're all good, keep Ow. Sorry, Chicago. At least we won Game 3. Another one-run game, actually. We'll let the O's have it this time, and we can take solace in knowing that we lost to the best, as they went on to win the World Series against the Dodgers. So that's 2 of the goals complete for the Chicago White Sox. I don't think there are many places we can meaningfully improve the team going into 2028. The rotation was stellar, so we'll have to decide whether or not to get Javier back. The bullpen has a few older gents clearing out, but the draftees are making up the numbers well. The hitting definitely has some holes, so we may see some changes there. I just want to see Cuero hit regularly. Is that too much to ask? Caden Bodine is ready for the big leagues too, so the only way Edgar gets a shot is if we don't sign Banfield back up. Decisions. But decisions to be made in 2028. Bring on the final season.